What's up, guys? We're back with another ThunderCats Ultimates Wave 2 review, taking a look at the second bad guy, and also the second figure that makes up some of the figures that we knew were coming way back when, after Wave 1 of the Mattel days. So Jaga was the other figure. Grune the Destroyer is his counterpart. We knew he was coming, and then of course that line died, and Super7 has picked up where they left off, and now we are finally getting our Grune the Destroyer in Ultimates form. So of course, he comes in the standard style packaging for the line, black slipcover with the Mumra logo foil embossed on the front, ThunderCats logo on the back, and then of course pop that off and you've got your big saber-tooth tiger Thunderian, previously ThunderCat, inside the big window, and then on the back you've got some artwork as well as a bio for this big guy. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Grune the Destroyer from Super7's ThunderCats Ultimates Wave 2. Again, the counterpart to our set of two figures that never happened in the Mattel days. So we knew Jaga was coming, we knew Grune was coming, they showed prototypes, and then it was over. So we're finally getting to finish that little pair. Of course, you know, Grune was supposed to come first, but everything came out of order, so we've already got Jaga, and now we're going to finish that off. Grune is very familiar territory. He's very similar to all the other, you know, Thunderian kind of Ultimates, but at the same time, he's a little bit different because of his design, and he is a little bit taller. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. You've got a head that is pretty locked down. I mean, he's really only going to swivel side to side. He has got, you know, I mean, you could consider that some bobble, but it's not really anything. Arms go out at the shoulders. And then, of course, they rotate forward and backward. You can only go so far before you start to stress these pauldrons, but they go pretty far. We've got bicep swivel, single jointed rotating elbow, get you about 90 degrees there. And then you've got your hinges, lateral hinges on him in the box, and then rotation at the wrist. Now, he does have the overlay for the torso, so his torso articulation is effectively 0, but he does actually have it. Like, there is articulation under there. You can see on the backside there's this crunch. This is a very Motu Classics design element. You know, when ThunderCats Ultimates was born out of ThunderCats Classics, which was born out of Motu Classics. So it makes perfect sense that this would be a holdover, or that it would still, you know, find its way into this line from time to time, but it does impede his articulation. It effectively renders that crunch useless. You do still get access to the waist twist, though. It's underneath the belt. And then we've got these hips, which are incredibly interesting because they, one, differ from the prototype, but they are also incredibly unsightly. I do not enjoy the way these hips look. They very much detract from the figure, and it breaks him up in a really weird way. They are very functional. Like, they can get him to do full splits if you need that. And then they kick all the way forward. They also kick incredibly far backwards because nothing is really in the way. And then you've got a very unencumbered thigh swivel, which, you know, all these figures have them, but a lot of them don't go this far because they're so much, you know, up into the crotch. We've got our single jointed knee. This thing goes about 90, 80 degrees maybe. And then you've got a little bit of shimmy there. It's not a full rotating joint, but you've got some because he also doesn't have a boot cut because it's, you know, right at the bottom of the knee. And then you've got your rocker and you got hinges. They go back really far, but they don't really go forward because of the armor plates on the shins. So he is, you know, pretty normal for an Ultimates figure, but at the same time, he does have a few things that get in the way. Literally, you've got the chest piece that gets in the way, and then you've got whatever is going on with why the hips both look and function this way. Now, as far as the overall look and feel on Grune, I think for the most part that they've got him down pretty good. This is very cartoony, and there's a lot of paint on this guy. The sculpt is really solid. There is one big thing that we're going to have to talk about that is definitely a glaring visual challenge when it comes to Grune. So as far as he goes, you know, like I mentioned, there's the big armor piece that he's got. It does get in the way of his articulation. It's a very, very Motu Classics kind of thing. You know, kind of the vestiges of that line still showing its presence. And you've got the ability to take it off, of course, because he comes with a separate piece, and you know, you pop this off here on the top, pop it off on the bottom, and just sort of slide it off of him. It was honestly easier than I expected. It gave me a little bit of trouble at first, but now it's fine. It just comes right off, and then you can put the other one back on. So it looks really nice. It's fully painted as far as the belt and the chest piece, and then you've even got a lot of shading up here on these, you know, like saber-toothy kind of pauldrons with those deep red eyes, which I do really like. He's a little asymmetrical because he's got, you know, he's got a thing on his arm. He's got a band over here. We've got our spiked gauntlets that match our spiked belt. And then these legs down here are really interesting. So, again, this guy is supposed to be a little bit taller than Lino, a little bit taller than Jaga. Like, he's not huge, he's not Mumra by any means, but he's supposed to be a little bit taller, and he is definitely a little bit taller. Most of that, well, all of it, it has to come from the legs, because as best I can tell, this torso seems very, very similar to the ones that we see in the Conan line. I'm quite certain it's the same piece. So it's a normal buck torso. He's not any taller, but he gets extra height added to him because of this getup that he's wearing, the extra added armor piece. So his legs, as a result, are definitely longer than the other Thunderians. You've got specifically really long calves. But what I'm really curious about is his height meant to be taking advantage of the legs and whatever's going on with these hip joints, because this is the same hip joint system we see for the other ThunderCats, no different. You just don't see it. You literally don't usually see it. You see a little bit peeking out of the side, but you won't ever see this. So you've got what I'm assuming is a situation where they're not seated in there correctly, because the prototype does, of course, look different. It doesn't look like this. And if anything, regardless of functionality, because, of course, this allows the legs to move forward and sideways really, really easily. That's a positive, I suppose. It's incredibly unsightly because the legs themselves are actually really well done. New sculpt here. These thigh pads are incredibly well shaded. Like, there's a ton of detail in there. They look sun faded, which I like quite a bit. And then you've got a lot of paint down here on his actual calf armor and the boots themselves. But it's weird because your eyes are just kind of, for lack of a better phrase, they're basically drawn to his crotch because he cinches in at the middle and then flares out again, and it makes for a pretty odd shape. So what I'm curious about is if it's a situation where he can be taken apart and reassembled to sort of fix things. I might have to look into that. Beyond that with this guy, I do think he looks pretty good. The head sculpt is really nice. It's definitely an evil Grune, of course, because of just how he looks. But you've got that nice saber-toothed fang. You've got his sort of, bumpy helmet that he's got up there. But the eyes are really what I get drawn to on this head sculpt. A lot of dark around them, so, super black paint. And then you've got very cartoony looking actual eyes themselves. And then he's got this really nice bushy head of hair. So I'm really happy with the way he turned out overwhelmingly. Like, I really think this is a very good cartoony Grune the Destroyer. But this figure does have one really weird problem when it comes to just how he looks at the crotch. And then, of course, we have to do some size comparisons and comparisons to another Grune. So here he is with the LJN. Of course, they look nothing alike. The idea is still similar. Saber-toothed fanged kind of Thunderian in some armor, but the color palette is incredibly different. A lot of the same hallmarks are there, thigh pads, the ridged boots, the breastplate, and then the pauldrons, but the color palette is entirely different. So there's not a great deal to compare to, but it's a good idea to see, of course, what he looks like compared to the original figure, from 30 years ago. And then as far as some size comparisons go, here we are with Lino, with Jaga as far as ultimates go, and you can see the difference here in terms of height. He's not super, super huge, but he's, about a half to 3/4 of a head taller than both of these guys. So, Lino's hair makes him look taller than he actually is, but it gives you an idea of exactly how he is changed with some small differences in certain body parts to make him taller while still not being entirely unique. Of course, there is a bigger figure than that. So here he is with Mumra, the ever-living. Well, it's Pumra, the ever-living right now. I realized after that review that I completely forgot about that head from Pumra. So here he is now on camera. So you can see that he does have that big monster Pumra head, but you can see exactly just how big he is in comparison. So Grune is still bigger than most of our ThunderCats figures, but he pales in comparison to Mumra. And then we'll do another ultimate. So here he is with Raph. Of course, a turtle. And then let's move Lino aside. And here he is with a Black Series figure. So Boba Fett, just to give you an idea of what he looks like with a normal 1/12 kind of figure. And then because why not, let's throw Wolverine in there just to show you what he looks like next to that little guy. So he does have some size on him. He's not huge, and nor is he supposed to be, but it's nice to be able to illustrate exactly how much those little changes in, lengthening his legs basically will make him slightly taller enough to give him a little bit more of a looming presence over some of the good guys. Now, as far as accessories goes, Grune definitely has the greatest quantity when it comes to this wave. He has a lot of stuff here to basically give him almost everything I could really think of that he would need. So to start with, we do get his extra head, and we get the second set of armor. You know, and I will say right now, I'm really happy that they decided to go this route and do the second set of armor. You know, it would be a huge, huge miss to have to wait later down the road for them to throw him into another spot with just a change up of an armor just to give us both versions. It knocks him out right at the same time. So I do really like that. It is, however, just the same piece of armor. There's nothing different to it. It just has the ThunderCats logo on it, which is really all it needs. And then you've got this second head sculpt, which of course is the two-fanged version. So if you want to have him, you know, looking like a ThunderCat, kind of here is your method to do so. He even has a nice little snarl going on. So it's not just a one-fang addition to this head sculpt. There is an expression change as well. We do get some hands, of course. He gets some gripping hands on him in the box. Those are laterally hinged hands. And then we've got vertically hinged gripping hands. And then you've got those style pose sort of clawed hands. No fists for this guy. I'll mention that right now. No fists for Grune. We do get the broken Sword of Omens. I'm really happy to get another version of this. So it's, you know, the eye is closed. And then you've got the shattered blade at the top. Nice silver metallic paint. So this will be a good one. Just if you want to try to set a different scene, you've got that option. We get his knuckle weapons. So this is, of course, an homage to the LJN toy. So you get two of these. They're done up in sort of just a flat gray to make them look more cartoony, which I do like. They very much will fit with the theme for the figure. I'm happy we got those. You know, I don't know if I'd have been missing them if they weren't here, but I like getting those LJN weapons too. And then we get his mace. So this, of course, is a cartoon and a toy thing because the toy also had it. So just sort of flat gray with the very sort of angular diamond-y design with the blue spikes. So this is the one that I'll probably display him with, although I do really like these. So these are really cool. They're very different. And then we get the seals of Grune. So this is the closed seal, and then we get the broken one. So of course, you know, this is the same thing, just cracked down the middle to sort of replicate the scene in which he is, you know, revived in the cartoon. So that's one of those sort of deep cut accessories. It's not super, super deep. It's not like end of the series deep, but it's still one of those sort of weird ones that you don't normally expect. I will say, I do kind of wish that they had foregone one or both of these in favor of the sword he uses later on in the show, in the ThunderCats Ho miniseries, or, you know, little movie thing. I think he uses a sword with Jaga, and Jaga also didn't get his sword. It'd have been cool to be able to get those instead of this, because I'll probably use this one time and then never again. Otherwise, though, he has, I mean, a really solid spread and just about everything else, like I said, that I think he could need. So overall, I am really happy with Grune. There is, you know, no accounting for this big weird thing going on with his hips. They're very unsightly. They do work really well, like I'm not disputing that. They work just fine, but they do look really awkward and they throw off just the shape and the silhouette of him as a character because he cinches at the waist and then he explodes out with those thigh pads. Not to mention the fact that the exposed joints there themselves really aren't all that attractive. Otherwise, the figure does look really good. I mean, he's got a great sculpt beyond that. Great paint applications, really good colors. I mean, he pops on a shelf. And then he's got a great head sculpt and really a really fine array of accessories that pretty much puts the other figures in this wave to shame because he just gets so much extra stuff because of what they're trying to do, giving us the option to make both versions of Grune, which again, I think is a great idea just to knock it all out at once rather than taking up two spots in this line. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super7 Ultimates ThunderCats Wave 2 Grune the Destroyer. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.